Welcome to VGC 201, and congratulations on your promotion from Novice Trainer to Ace Trainer. Previously, we discussed the basics of competitive Pokemon, but now it's time to begin our journey into team building. Today, we'll start with the basics, helpful resources that you can use throughout your journey that will serve as the foundation for your team building knowledge. So, what exactly are some of the best resources to start your team building journey? The first, and most popular, and perhaps well known, is Pokemon Showdown. More than likely, you're already familiar with this website or have at least heard of it. And if you haven't, in its simplest form, it's a battle simulator. Here, you're able to put together your dream team by simply typing in whatever stats, moves, items, abilities, and even gimmicks you're currently building for. The website allows you to store multiple teams to have on hand, to either upload as PokePaste to use for team sheets, build the team on the actual game cartridge, or to use on the website itself to practice against peers. You can even switch between different regulations on the quote-unquote showdown ladder, which makes for a great place to practice and even simulate what it's actually like to be in a tournament setting, since Pokemon Showdown allows you to participate in best of 3 open team sheet battles or whatever the regulation you'd like to participate in is. Just make sure to validate your team before hopping on the in-game ladder. To make sure that it's actually legal for you to use. The next resource you may want to use is Maryland Team Builder. Maryland Team Builder allows you to see how your team stacks up defensively against different types of moves. Early in the team building process, you can use it to see if you have any glaring weaknesses against a certain type. You can also click the Enable Advanced Mode checkbox to input moves and see how the team compares offensively to single types. Dual types aren't shown in this graph, so that is something to keep in mind for certain meta threats. However, one thing you do have to remember is that not all moves are built the same. For example, if the only Pokemon with a normal type move on your team is Fake Out Incineroar, and you input that move, it's not really gauging offensive capability very well, since Fake Out isn't a move used for offense, whereas something like Facade from Ursaluna is a true offensive move. Not all moves are built different, however. Additionally, after marking Advanced Mode, you can input an opposing team to see how your team stacks up against it. So, if there's a team doing really well in the meta, and you want to see if you have the tools to, well, hit it, there are some great options available. To round out our resources for basic team building, a final website that you may find useful is the Pokemon Attack Type Coverage Calculator. As you'd expect, this is a coverage calculator. Now personally, I, myself, and my team building group don't use this that much, but you can input the attack types your Pokemon will have and see which other Pokemon it's able to hit for resisted, neutral, or super effective. This can help you see if there's a certain Pokemon you'll have trouble hitting, and either find a coverage move for that Pokemon or think of other offensive partners to pair it with. But now that we have our basics covered, how do we actually see what's, good? A great place to start would be Pokédata. Pokédata has a backlog of all regional results since about mid-2023. Not all of the earliest events have it, but some of the more recent events will have the teams each player used. This will give you a taste on what some of the top players in the game are using in terms of moves, items, and abilities, making this a great place to analyze teams and theorize how the Pokemon work together. It's also good just to be able to weed out what's good and what Pokemon you probably shouldn't spend as much time on. Maybe leave the Espeon at home, even if it's really cute. Another great resource that really helps you narrow in on a specific Pokemon that you might want to use, and also get some team inspiration, is Top Cut Explorer. Top Cut Explorer will also show regional results, but it can also help you seek out a specific Pokemon and see how it performed with certain partners against teams that got championship points during that tournament. For example, if I go to 2024, Reg F, since that'll be the newest regulation starting in December, Orlando Regional, and click on the Select a Pokemon dropdown, I can find every team that got points at this regional that had a Raging Bolt that has a Terra Fairy with leftovers, that has Calm Mind, and was paired with Amoonguss, which is what makes this such a great place to start to get some team ideas. And speaking of narrowing in on one specific Pokemon, the next resource, Lab Mouse, allows you to click on a specific Pokemon and see how it has trended in recent tournaments. You can see the common Terras, items, and moves and how they've changed over time. And, much like Top Cut Explorer, you can also click on the Top Teams tab and see what the current most popular team compositions are to get some more team inspo. You can also see tournament results by regulation, and use that to also get some inspiration or just try out a team that you might have seen on one of the official tournament streams that you liked. The next resource is one that you also might have already heard of: Pikalytics. Pikalytics will also break down Pokemon by common partners, items, and moves. Also, over on the side, it will rank Pokemon by usage in that reg, so you already know who the popular Pokemon are per each regulation. And this website will also give you some common EV spreads as well. So, if you're new to EVs and are intimidated by the damage calculator, which we'll discuss shortly, this website will just give you common EV spreads to try out on your own. You're free to try them out, and if you don't like them, you can always adjust. These are always a good place to start. Our last resource for this specific section is Munchstats. Munchstats is very similar to Pikalytics. However, this website also has Terras shown on the page, which really helps to get the full picture. Pikalytics does have some Terras, but this website is just another good way to visualize. But now that we have the basics of team building, as well as where you can get some inspiration covered, it's time to get into the actual nitty-gritty, actually building and calculating a team's stats. Now, arguably, one of the most important aspects of team building is calcs. And the damage calculator that I and my team building group use is Nerd of Now. It should be noted that this resource is a bit more advanced and is definitely something that should be worked up to, as it can be a little intimidating. But if you want to start making your own EV spreads, which I definitely don't recommend for beginners until you start to get the hang of things and actually know what you're looking for, but this calculator allows you to see how much damage you're doing into certain Pokemon. We won't focus too much on this aspect of team building just yet, but we will dive into this a little bit later in the series. But even here, without harping too much on the math, if you search out a common Pokemon like Incineroar, there's even more sets loaded in that you can use, some of which have even won tournaments. So this is also a good place to get more spreads and moveset ideas as well. Now, for my newer trainers, a great resource that helps you test out teams without having to immediately dive into team building and calcing yourself is Victory Road. Here, you can find Pokepaste with EVs as well as rental codes for easy access. Sometimes early on, you don't need to build your own team, as it's better to practice getting the basics down without having to worry about whether you EV'd your Incineroar correctly and made sure it has good synergy with the rest of the team. So, with this resource, you can just come here and grab a team you find interesting and start playing with it. This way, you can learn the game and save any resources until you start feeling more comfortable. And a lot of these codes are from really experienced players with good tournament results, so it's always trustworthy. This is something that I preach almost every day when I stream. Personally, I love rental teams, especially because I'm not the best at math. And if you just want a whole archive of rental teams, you can also check out this Google Doc. I'll have it linked in the description of the video as well. But with all of our specific resources covered, here are a few more general resources that we'll quickly go over in case you want to check them out as well. VGC Guide is a good overview made by VGC players that goes over some general knowledge from battling rules to base stats all the way up to mentality and how to use Team Preview. Limitless is a great way to compete against peers in an actual tournament setting, so you can see how your team stacks up against what other players may be using in the current format. You may also just want to check out the Pokemon event locator page to see if there's any events near your area. Battle in person. Make local friends in your community. This is a great way to improve not only your skills, but also your confidence. Friends and community also help a lot in team building, so try and make friends, especially if they're better than you. That's what I did. And lastly, watch the tournament live streams. You don't need to watch the full stream, but tuning in for the top cut is a great way to see what established and upcoming players are running and get some insight into the meta, as well as inspiration for your own teams. Plus, the energy is infectious and really gets you motivated to get to their level. Remember, this is a game after all. It's supposed to be fun. We don't have to be all work and no play, but if you've made it this far, congratulations! You have officially finished your first day of VGC 201. We definitely covered a lot of resources for you to start getting more comfortable with team building. But stay tuned for the next episode as we continue to dive even deeper into the world of team building and competitive Pokemon.